This technical seminars are an Intertech production. For instructor-led .NET, Java, and XML courses, visit us at www.intertech.com.
Some final thoughts here in this presentation. I'm going a little long here. Visual Studio 2010 Beta 2. Definitely download and play with this. I'm much happier with Beta 2 than I was with Beta 1. Beta 2 is less buggy, less prone for crashing, what I found. It's also much faster. Stretching windows and such, I found that Beta 2 just seems to be performing a lot quicker for me. I can't wait till it actually comes out with the official release. They're deciding not to make a 64-bit edition of Visual Studio 2010. They said they're going to stick with the x86. That'll run just fine in 32-bit mode on 64-bit systems like I'm currently running. And of course, Visual Studio 2010 will include support for MVC. And there is some AJAX MVC scripts that are going to be included as well. Keep in mind, jQuery is going to be the scripting library for us to learn and get very comfortable with. And of course, jQuery also supports a little bit of MVC programming as well. There's also some AJAX, there are a lot of the same AJAX templates that were in Visual Studio 2008 are still there in Visual Studio 2010. And a lot of things that you're learning and working with now in Visual Studio 2008 are also still there in 2010, except for jQuery and the support for MVC right out of the box. Visual Studio 2010 is it's nice to work with. It's written in WPF. And of course, Microsoft eating its own dog food is making WPF more and more performant, and that's something else that we as developers are going to have to get comfortable with. So, my final thoughts here. This is intense programming. There's a lot of programming involved. You really do have to understand .NET programming. You have to understand JavaScript programming. You may or may not want to go this route for your own custom AJAX programming. You may want to stick with the XmlHttpRequest. The most dangerous programmers I know out there are the ones that say, this is the only way I'm ever going to do something. The best programmers always look at all the options and find out what's going to be the simplest for whatever problem they're currently working on. Many different programming skills required. There's a lot of time required. Working with the custom controls in AJAX, even if you're not doing AJAX, even if you're just creating custom controls, you have to be patient to get it all to work. As I state there in little quotes, all the planets have to align. Yeah, it's really easy to screw this up. If your attributes are off in your custom control, if you reference JavaScript, or if your JavaScript wasn't written correctly before you go ahead and add it to your control to send to the client, it's not going to work. Everything does have to be exact. And keep in mind, whenever you're doing any type of web programming, you've got to make sure that you test this on multiple browsers as well. Take a look at Microsoft's JavaScript libraries, specifically the AJAX libraries. Learn those and take advantage of those functions. Again, the best way to learn that is find some existing code, some samples, or just peruse through the .debug versions of the JavaScript files. Make sure, of course, you understand JavaScript programming, specifically object-oriented JavaScript programming. I know JavaScript is generally thought of as a prototype language where you don't actually define classes and inheritance, but with the AJAX client-side library, it actually supports all of that. Adding classes to namespaces, registering them, and things of that nature. You're going to have to play around a little bit with the AJAX client-side library, and the source code is all available. The resource list, well, a few books I'd like to recommend. One, anything you're doing with ASP.NET AJAX, this green book from Manning. I'm just amazed at all the information that's inside of here. It gives you fantastic information with working with the AJAX library on the client side and also with the controls. But keep in mind that it was based on the AJAX library 1.0, not .NET 3.5. And that's why I have the next books listed there. The ASP.NET 3.5 AJAX book, the professional one from Rocks, is a pretty good book. That talks about the client-side library also as creating custom controls. I've got some links on here, such as ASP.NET/AJAX, the Codeplex site, and then the AJAX blog, which is actually the team blog for the folks that originally came up with the Atlas product. And then Scott Guthrie just continues to amaze me with all the information he knows about ASP.NET, and he's always working on something. He's always working with the latest web technologies from Microsoft. A third book I'd like to recommend is from Addison Wesley. And this book here actually has a lot of information about creating custom controls, and notice it's based on .NET 3.5. I really like this book in conjunction with the green book over here. The green book is going to give you a lot of the information about the JavaScript side of things, and this one's going to give you a lot of information on the server side and how to add JavaScript to be sent to the client. So these are a couple of books that I highly recommend. Now, I asked some discussion questions for the folks that attended when I was at Microsoft giving the presentation. And how many are creating custom controls? Well, there wasn't that many, to be honest. Not many people are doing it. And I think that's because of the difficulty. This is not easy. And sometimes, especially if people have experience with other forms of web programming, especially if it's been in JavaScript and what other languages, they may just jump back to that XmlHttpRequest object, giving them more control on the client side. Well, hopefully things are going to get simplified here. Maybe there'll be some more examples as time goes on. That's what I'm hoping for as a developer myself. And there's more examples that I can borrow from, if you will. I've also talked to some other developers that said the AJAX Control Toolkit was great, so long as you're in Internet Explorer. But you go to try them on other browsers and they weren't nearly as successful. Now, there's a lot of different resources from Intertech. You can check things out. Like, this is one of the YouTube videos right now that I'm currently recording that you're currently listening to. But there's several other ones available on that. We have also got white papers and PDFs from Intertech. Hopefully you're on our email list, and we send you emails, current technology that we've been working with. And we always like to hear from you folks to see what you'd like training on. There's actually a link right on our homepage in the lower right corner. If you could take a little survey with us, that'd be great, and tell us what we should be developing our classes for. Intertech, of course, offers, mostly we've been offering day classes. We haven't offered them any night classes just because there hasn't been much of a demand. But at the same time, we've also offered virtual training. So if you want to sit at home or sit at work and take training, you can do that as well. We'll mail you the books, and I know for a fact they also include some other goodies along the way, like a bunch of little snacks and things of that nature. And you can also follow along great with our class. We've got some amazing boards, classroom training boards at school where I can just drag and drop, or I can draw right on the board, and you'll see it on your screen. We use WebEx for training primarily. Intertech is a training company, but they've also got an awesome consulting division. So keep that in mind for your division, what you're working with. And if you guys need some consulting help, by all means contact Intertech. And basically, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. I hope I gave you some neat ideas or something to think about. I spent a lot of time here, but hopefully this is something that you guys can use. There's the slides again that you can currently download my PDF for this slide deck right here. And you also have my email address, davin@mndeveloper.com or davin@intertech, either one. You can go ahead and contact me. And that should be about it then. All right, thanks a lot.
For more free learning resources and to see the latest lineup of our instructor-led .NET, Java, and XML courses, visit us at www.intertech.com.